Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week. And if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. This tutorial's for arm warmers. Since we just made leg warmers, I thought to keep the accessory trend going and make some for the arms. This one's keeping a similar look with a few twists, so it's perfect paired together or on its own. Speaking of, if you're looking to make something to pair with an old make, or you love everything brand new, you are in the right place. We have hundreds of modern crochet tutorials and patterns with even more dropping twice weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now it's time to get on the show, so without further ado, for this project, any category for yarn will work, but I used a total of 155 grams of yarn. That's 280 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 4.5mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us how many pieces you think you've made so far for this year. Now, since we produce 2 patterns a week, I think we made roughly 100 pieces so far for this year. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 6 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, and double treble crochet. This tutorial is made for a size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we'll explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this arm warmer started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're all going to grab our 4.5mm hook and start off by making an even number chain the width that we like for the detail of our arm warmers to be. Now, I would like for mine to be just about the width of the palm of my hand. So I made a chain of 14, and that's going to be 3 inches or 8 centimeters, and it does need to be a minimum of at least 14 chains. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to get started on our row 1, which is a half double crochet row. Start by blocking off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet. Into that chain that we blocked off with the 3rd chain from our hook, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. That's our first half double crochet. Again, yarn over, into that next chain, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that's it. Continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain. Our row 1 is complete. Now our row 2 is going to be a half double crochet row as well. So chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 half double crochet into every stitch. And just as a really quick tip, we should all have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. We are back. Our row 2 is complete. Now what we're going to do from here is insert some stitch markers before we get started on the cable stitch detail. So what we're all going to want to do first is start by inserting our stitch markers into our 2 middle stitches. We should all have 2 since we all should have made an even number of chains. Now for those of you that have my numbers, I inserted my stitch marker into the 7th and into the 8th stitch. Those are my 2 middle stitches. Then for everyone, no matter what size we're making, we're going to be inserting our next stitch markers into the 4th stitch away from our 2 middle stitch markers. So counting that out together, we want to make sure that we're counting that stitch marker stitch. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, insert a stitch marker. And same for the other side. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and inserted that stitch marker. From here, we can take out our 2 middle stitch markers because we don't need it anymore. And then we can get started on a row 3 or our first cable stitch row. So let's all chain 2 and flip our work. So getting started on our row 3, we're going to start with our Alpine stitch detail, and it's going to start with 1 half double crochet for everyone. So yarn over and into that first stitch, insert with a half double crochet. Now our Alpine stitches is always just going to be alternating between a half double and a front post double. So to do our next front post double, what we're going to do is yarn over. Now every post stitch for our cable stitch row is going to be worked into our previous odd number row. So since we're working on row 3, we're going to be inserting our hook into our row 1. So getting our front post double crochet started, we're all going to start by finding that second half double crochet from our row 1. So taking a look at our row 1, this is my first half double crochet. We're not going to be working into there because that half double crochet that we just did counts as that stitch. Now into that following half double, we're going to be inserting our hook underneath the body of that stitch. So since we've already yarned over, we're going to find that second half double crochet from our row 1, insert our hook underneath the body and through the other side. Then we're all going to yarn over and pull through. Now when we have these 3 loops on our hook, we're all going to want to pull up tall to get the same height as our half double crochet. And then from here, we're going to double crochet per usual. So yarn over, pull through 2 to get 2 loops on our hook. Then again, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. And that's it. We're going to continue to do our half double and front post double until we reach our stitch marker. Now, I actually just have one more stitch left to do, but I'm going to be doing one more set of stitches together just to make sure we all have it down. So to do our next half double crochet together, we're all going to skip that following stitch from our previous row because this front post double counts as that stitch. So into the next, insert with a half double crochet. Now, like I said, I am already at my stitch marker stitch, so I actually don't need to do any more stitches for my Alpine stitch detail, but I'm just going to be doing the following one with you. What we're going to do from here is a front post double, so yarn over. Making sure we're inserting our post stitches into our previous odd number row. We're going to skip that following stitch because that half double crochet counts as that stitch. So into the next, we're going to bring our hook down underneath the body of that following stitch and through the other side. Then yarn over and pull through. When we have these 3 loops on our hook, we're all going to pull up tall, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. And that's it. From here, we're going to continue to repeat our half double and front post double crochets until we reach our stitch marker. And like I said, I have already reached mine, so now we can get started on our cable stitch detail. Now, just as a really quick tip, for our Alpine stitch detail, we either could have ended on a half double or a front post double. That really just depends on how many chains that we made. But what we're going to do from here is a front post treble crochet into that following stitch. So yarn over twice to prepare for a front post treble. Now just finding that next available stitch from our previous odd number row, we're going to bring our hook down underneath the body of that next stitch, yarn over and pull through. From here we should all have 4 loops on our hook, so we're just going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now that is going to be our dividing stitch for our cable stitch detail. Now what we're going to do from here is a set of 2 front post double treble crochets. So let's get that started. So how that is going to work, we're all going to yarn over 3 times. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Now counting from our previous odd number row, we're going to skip the following 2 stitches. So here's 1, here's 2. Into that following stitch, insert with our first front post double treble. So insert, bring your hook through the other side, then yarn over and pull through. Then from here, we're all going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. So all together, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. That is our first front post double treble crochet, and another front post double treble crochet into that following stitch as well. So yarn over 1, 2, 3 times, underneath that following half double crochet and through the other side, and pull through. From here, we're all going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook again. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now from here, another set of 2 front post double treble crochets, but now working into the 2 stitches that we skipped over. So yarn over 3 times again into that first skip stitch. We're going to bring our hook down underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side. then yarn over and pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then again, yarn over 3 times. Into that last skip stitch, bring your hook underneath that stitch and through the other side, pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now that our crossover is complete, to complete our cable stitches, 1 front post treble crochet into the following 2 stitches. So yarn over twice, just into that following stitch from our row 1, bring your hook underneath that body and through the other side, pull through and yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. Another front post treble into that following stitch, underneath through the other side. There's my following front post treble crochet, and now the cable stitch portion is complete. But the cable stitch portion is always going to be framed off with our front post treble crochet or our dividing stitch. So just 1 more front post treble crochet into that next stitch. So yarn over twice. Underneath that following stitch, insert your hook underneath and through the other side. Pull through and yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. And now our cable stitch detail is complete. So our second Alpine stitch detail is going to be a little bit different for everyone, so I'm just going to talk you guys through it. Now when it comes to doing our second Alpine stitch detail for every cable stitch row, it is going to need to mirror the first Alpine stitch detail that we did. So as an example, my last stitch that I did for my Alpine stitch detail was a half double crochet. So I will actually be starting my Alpine stitch detail over here with a half double crochet. But if yours ended with a front post double crochet, that's fine as well. You are going to start your Alpine stitch detail with a front post double crochet. So for those of us that ended with a half double crochet, what we are going to do is we're all going to count out a total of 8 stitches from our previous row, because we just took up a total of 8 stitches for our cable stitch detail, and then half double crochet into the following. So as an example, we're all going to take a look at our previous row. We're going to count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Into the following, we're going to insert with a half double crochet, and then we're going to do our Alpine stitch detail per usual to reach the end of the row. So just to get the following stitch started with you, yarn over, because it's going to be a front post double crochet, finding that next available stitch from our row 1, insert our hook underneath, through the other side, and pull through. Now that we have these 3 loops on our hook, don't forget to pull up tall, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Then from here, we're going to continue to do our half double and front post double till we reach the end of the row, and everyone's last stitch should be a half double crochet. Now for those of you that ended your first Alpine stitch detail with a front post double crochet, what you guys are going to do is once when you do our dividing stitch for our cable stitch detail, you're going to be putting 1 front post double crochet into the following stitch. Then to do your next half double crochet, you are going to start off by counting out 10 stitches from your previous row, and then half double crocheting into the following stitch. You guys are counting out 10 stitches because of the 8 stitches that we just did for the cable, plus the additional front post double crochets that we did along the outside of our dividing stitches. Then from there, you guys are going to continue to do our front post double and half double crochets the same way that we've been doing until we reach the end of the row. And then everyone's last stitch should be a half double crochet. And then once we have made our way down to the end of the row, we're all going to chain 1, flip our work, and then every even number row from here on out is going to be a single crochet row. So just insert your hook with a single crochet. Again, into that next stitch, pull through 2, and continue with 1 single crochet into every stitch. We are back. Our single crochet row is complete. That was our row 4, and now let's get started on our row 5, so chain 2 and flip. Now when it comes to doing any odd number row, our Alpine stitch detail stitches need to be staggered from our previous Alpine stitch section to get the texture that we want. So for everyone's row 5, we're all going to start with a front post double crochet because our previous Alpine stitch detail started with a half double crochet. So all we're going to do is start with a yarn over and finding the first stitch from our previous odd number row. So since we're working on row 5, we're going to take a look at our row 3. Insert your hook underneath the body of that first half double crochet, through the other side, pull through. Then just like before, when we have these 3 loops on our hook, we're going to pull up tall, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Now we want to make sure that we're inserting our front post doubles into our previous half double crochet to get the texture that we want, because if we just put a front post double on top of a front post double, we'll end up getting some ribbing, which is nice, but not what we want. Now everyone's next stitch is going to be a half double crochet. So skipping that first stitch from our previous row, because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch, we're going to half double crochet into that next stitch, pull through, and pull through all 3. Now from here, we're going to continue on with our front post double and half double crochet until we have the same amount of stitches as our previous Alpine stitch detail. Now I only had 3 for my previous section, so I just did a total of 3 stitches here, and now I'm at my cable stitch detail, so I'm ready to do that. Now what we're going to do from here is always going to start with our dividing stitch. So yarn over twice. Into our previous cable stitch row's dividing stitch, we're going to insert our hook underneath, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. That is our dividing stitch. Now to do the actual cable stitch portion, we're all going to start with 1 front post treble crochet into the following 2 stitches. So yarn over twice. Into that next available stitch, we're going to insert underneath and through the other side with 1 front post treble. And then into that following stitch with another front post treble crochet. Now that we have the first 2 stitches for our cable stitch detail completed, we're going to skip the following 2 stitches, and then into the 2 stitches right after that, 1 front post double treble crochet into each of those. So as a refresher, yarn over 3 times. We're going to skip 1, skip 2. Into that next, insert, pull through, and from here we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. That's our first front post double treble crochet. We're going to be doing 1 more into the following. So yarn over 3 times, into that next stitch, and pull through 2, pull through and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left. Now from here, we're all going to be doing another set of 2 front post double treble crochets, but now working into that window that we just made for ourselves. So start with a yarn over of 3 again. We're all going to hang on to our working yarn and pull our hook down towards us, finding those 2 skip stitches into that window. So make sure that you're hanging on to your working yarn, otherwise it can very easily fall off, and find that first skip stitch. This is mine right here. So all I'm going to do is bring my hook back. It may feel a little awkward, and through that first skip stitch, and finish up our first front post double treble crochet. Now, but that is the first stitch for our crossover. We're going to be doing 1 more front post double treble into that following skip stitch. So yarn over 3 times again, hang on to your working yarn, pull our work down, finding that last skip stitch, and insert with another front post double treble. And that is the crossover for our row 5's cable. Now to finish off our cable stitch detail, we're going to do our dividing stitch, which is always a front post treble crochet into our previous cable stitch detail's front post treble crochet. And now we're going to finish up our row with our Alpine stitch detail. Now same rules apply as our previous cable stitch row's Alpine stitch detail. We are going to need to mirror the first Alpine stitch detail. So as a really quick tip, if your last stitch was a front post double crochet like mine, you're going to start the second one with a front post double crochet. But if yours ended with a half double crochet, that's fine as well. You guys are going to start with a half double crochet. So for those of us that need to do a front post double crochet first, we're all going to yarn over. Just find that next stitch from our previous cable stitch row. It should be a half double crochet for us. We're going to bring our hook down underneath that half double crochet, insert your hook underneath and through the other side. Then yarn over and pull through. Then we're going to pull up tall. Pull through 2, pull through 2, then a half double crochet. So what we are going to do is count out 10 stitches from our previous row. It is going to be 10 because of the 8 cable stitches that we just did, plus the first front post double and the last front post double, and then half double crochet into the next. So all together, count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Into the next, insert with a half double crochet. And then from here, we're going to continue on with our Alpine stitch detail until we all have one stitch left. Now everyone's last stitch should be a front post double crochet. Now for those of you that ended your Alpine stitch detail with a half double crochet, what you guys are going to do is count out 8 stitches from our previous row and then half double crochet into the next. Then do your half double crochet and front post double crochets until again we all have one stitch left. Then when we have that one stitch left, we are all going to be doing a front post double crochet combined with a half double crochet. So once we have our one stitch left, what we're going to do is yarn over once. We're going to be inserting our hook underneath the last stitch from our previous Alpine stitch detail, should be the side of this half double crochet. So bring your hook down underneath through the other side and pull through. Then from here we're going to pull up tall, yarn over, and pull through. Now when we have these 2 loops on our hook, what we're going to do is yarn over. We're going to close off the row with a front post double crochet combined with a half double crochet to make sure that everything is secured down. When we have these 3 loops on our hook, we're going to insert our hook into the last stitch from our previous row. So I'm just going to bring my hook underneath, just like that. Yarn over and pull through. Now when we have these 4 loops on our hook, we're all going to yarn over and pull through all 4, and now our row 5 is complete. We should still have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made, and from here our following row, which is an even number row, is going to be another single crochet row. So chain 1, flip your work, and put 1 single crochet into every stitch. So we are back. Our first 6 rows are complete. Now all we're going to do from here is repeat rows 3 through 6 until we get the total length of the piece that we'd like. So I'm just going to get started on the following row with you, and I'll let you do the rest on your own. So from where we're at, we're all going to chain 2 and flip. Now since this row is going to be a repeat of our row 3, we're going to start it with a half double crochet. So yarn over and insert your hook into that first stitch with a half double. Then from here, yarn over, preparing for a front post double crochet. Into our previous Alpine stitch section's half double crochet, we're going to insert our hook with a front post double. So pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Now we just want to make sure that we're doing all of our post stitches into our previous cable stitch row, just like how we did for our row 5. Then from here, like I said, we're going to repeat rows 3 through 6, getting the total length of the arm warmers that we want. So making sure that we're placing this first row at the highest point that we'd like for our arm warmers to be. So you can put this right at your wrist, at mid forearm, or right above the elbow, which is where I'm going to be doing it. And just repeating these rows until this portion reaches the base of our thumb, which is right about here. And then I will meet you guys back right after a cable stitch row. Then we can finish up with the rest of our piece. I am back. My cable stitch detail is complete. I have a total of 41 rows. My length is roughly 12 inches or 32 centimeters. Now from here, we're going to start working on the side panels to fill in the rest of our arm warmers. So what we're going to do is start with a single crochet row, working along the edge of our cable stitch detail. So since we all should have ended right after a cable stitch row, we're all going to chain 1 and flip our work. So what we're all going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, starting with 2 single crochets. So what we're going to do is find our first side row. Mine is this cable stitch row right here. So I'm going to find that top loop. This is mine right here. And start with just 1 single crochet. And then into that same top loop with a second single crochet. And that is the first set of single crochets. Our next one is going to be just 1 single crochet. Find that top loop, which may be under our front post double crochet combined with a half double if we had to do that, and insert with a single. Let's do that again. This is my following side row, which should be our side cable stitch row. Find that top loop and insert with 2 singles. So there's 1 and there's 2. Into our following side row, which is our single crochet row. Find that top loop and insert with just 1. Continue this until you reach the end of the row. So we are back. We have just finished up our single crochet row. Now we're going to be doing back loop slip stitch rows to fill in the rest. So to get started on our following row, let's all chain 1 and flip our work. So finding our first stitch from our previous row, we're all going to find that back loop and insert in through there. Then yarn over and gently pull through everything on our hook. Again, into that next stitch, find that back loop, insert your hook, yarn over, and gently pull through everything, and that's pretty much it. We're going to continue with one back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Now, after every stitch, we do want to make sure we're not tugging too tightly, otherwise the falling rows can be too tight to work into. But all we're going to do from here is back loop slip stitch rows with no increases and no decreases until we have a portion that can stretch around the widest part of your arm. So placing our cable stitch detail along the top of our arm where the detail is going to be shown, and make sure it stretches comfortably to the middle of our arm. We are back! I have one of my side panels completed. I have a total of 10 rows. My width is roughly an inch or 2 centimeters unstretched. Now I did do a chain up of one and cut right after my last row, and now we're just going to repeat everything we did here on the other side, but we're all going to start by inserting our hook into the bottom corner stitch of our cable stitch detail. The bottom corner stitch is where our first cable stitch row is, just so that we show the front of the single crochet row so that both of our sides look exactly the same. And all we're going to do is an exact repeat. So starting with our single crochet row, and then just do our back loop slip stitch rows with no increases and no decreases for the same amount of rows as the first side panel. But once we finish the second one, do not do a chain up of one and cut because we can go straight into the seam from there. Alright, so we are back. We have just finished up our second side panel. Now we're going to seam everything together. So first things first, we're going to fold our work in half, making sure that the cable stitch detail is along the outside. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through everything on our hook. And then we're going to start by inserting our hook into that first available stitch's front loop within the front panel. Next available stitch's back loop within the back panel. Then when we have these 3 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. Again, into that next stitch into the front panel. Next stitch into the back panel, yarn over and pull through all 3. And that's it. We're all going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, I'll meet you guys back. Alright, so we are back. We have just finished up our seam, and now we're ready to get started on the top band, which is going to be a band on the upper side of our arm. So what we're going to do is make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into the last stitch that we have for our seam that we did within the back. Then we're going to do a single crochet row. So since our hook is already into that last stitch, we're going to insert our working yarn, pull through, and start with a chain up of 1. And all we're going to do is 1 single crochet into every side row, 1 single crochet into every stitch. So we're all going to start by finding that first side row. Mine is this raised row. Find that top loop and insert with 1 single crochet. Again, into my following side row, which is this divot now, find that top loop and insert with another single. Let's do this just once more. Into the top of this raised row, find that top loop and insert with 1 single. Then into this divot, find that top loop and insert with another single. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way around. Once we reach the top of our cable stitch detail, 1 single crochet is going to be worked into each of those stitches. Now, like I said, we're going to continue to do this, making our way all the way around, then slip stitch into that chain space. And just as a really quick tip, the single crochet row is going to be as wide as this portion can stretch. So once when you've made your way all the way around, try on your piece, and we all want to make sure that this single crochet isn't too tight. If it is, we're using stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, we're using stitches with a tighter grip. So we are back. Our single crochet is completed, and now we're going to get started on the length of our band. So we're all going to start by making a chain the length that we'd like for it to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 8. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to do our slip stitches back down. So block off that last chain and do a chain 1. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert with a slip stitch and make your way all the way down with 1 slip stitch into every chain, remembering still not to tug too tightly. So we are back. We put 1 slip stitch into every chain. Now we're going to connect it into the base. So all we're going to do is slip stitch it into that next available stitch into the base. That slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, still doesn't count as a stitch, and flip our work. Then put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So into that first available stitch from our previous row, not into any of those slip stitches into the base, insert with a back loop slip and continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Now since we already know how to do our back loop slip stitches, when we reach the end of the row, chain 1, flip your work and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and then I'll meet you back at the base just once more. So we've made our way all the way down, and now we should have a total of 1, 2, 3 slip stitch rows. And now just to connect it into the base together once more, insert into that next available stitch into the base, insert with a slip. Then since we're here, just to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next stitch into the base, flip our work, and then repeat. From here, continue to repeat our 2 previous rows, making our way all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, I'll meet you guys back so we can seam it all up together. So we are back. We've made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch rows. We don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're just going to seam it all together. So making sure that our work is flipped right side out, we're going to be doing the same outside loop slip stitch seam that we did for the back of our piece. So just inserting our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back, we're going to yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, and just to do the first one, start by finding that first stitch into the front panel, insert into that front loop, first stitch into the back panel, insert into that back loop, then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and that's it. Continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I will meet you back. We are back. We have just finished up seaming the band, and now we're going to finish up with the band that goes over our hand. So it's actually going to be done exactly the same way. The only difference is that there is going to be a thumb hole within it, but that's actually just going to be done when we seam it up. So I'm going to suggest to try our piece on, and then start by inserting our hook into the side row that we have that's nearest to where our thumb sits when we have it on. Now I'm just going to vaguely talk you guys through mine because it's a little hard to explain, but all I did was I tried my piece on. Right at the base of my thumb, I inserted my hook to get started on my single crochet row. Now for me, it was into the side of that single crochet row that we did on the edge of our cable stitch detail. Now if yours is a little bit further out, or a little bit further in, that's completely fine as well. Just make sure that when you're trying it on, you're wearing it as if you're wearing it when it was completed. So once we have our hook into place, we're going to do a single crochet row, the same exact way that we did when we got started on the band. So just put 1 single crochet into every side row, and then 1 single crochet into every stitch when we work into the bottom of our cable stitch detail. Then we're going to slip stitch into that chain space, making sure that everything is not too tight or too loose, because remember, this single crochet row is going to be as wide as this piece can stretch. Once when the single crochet row is complete, I will meet you guys back. So now that my single crochet row along the top of my piece is complete, we're now just going to do more back loop slip stitch rows the same exact way that we did for the other band. So from here, we're all going to want to start by making a chain the length that we'd like for this one to be. Now the only tip that I have for this one is that since our piece ends right at the base of our thumb, we are going to need it to be longer than the width of our thumb. So that's pretty short, so I don't think that we're going to have any problem with that. So what I would suggest is until we have a chain that reaches up to our knuckle. Now I would like for mine to be roughly 2 inches or 5 centimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and make a chain 10. And the back loop slip stitch rows are now going to be exactly the same that we did for the other band. So just do our back loop slip stitch rows with no increases and no decreases, making your way all the way around. And when we don't have any more stitches into the base left to work into, I will meet you guys back to show you how we're going to seam it all together. We are back. Now we have made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch rows. Now we're going to seam it all together. But when we seam it, we're all just going to leave a tiny slit for our thumb to poke through. So all we're going to do is try on our piece, and then we're going to insert our stitch marker that's right at the top of our thumb, making sure that the single crochet row that we just did is at the base of our thumb. But once we have that, go ahead and insert your stitch marker. I have inserted my stitch marker into the 4th stitch from the top. Then we're just going to do our outside loop slip stitch seam, so the same seam that we've been doing this entire time. Once we reach our stitch marker, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So we are back. We have just finished up seaming one of our thumb holes. Once we have one entire piece completed, you're then going to repeat the same thing on the other side. The only difference is that once we're doing the band with the thumb hole into it, we want to make sure that we're inserting our hook into the opposite end that we did from our first one, making sure that our thumb holes are correctly placed, making sure that our cable stitch detail is faced up on our arms. Because if we make 2 of these exact panels, the cable stitch detail for the other arm would be on the bottom. But once we have both of these all finished up, go ahead and weave in on your ends, and then we are all done. And there you have it. Hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye!